And it looks like we are live. And I want to welcome none of you, as none of you have actually arrived yet, but that's okay. I'm sure my armies of followers will be barreling in a moment. And until then, happy Groundhog Day, everyone. Thrash Pondo here. And I'm welcoming you to my special edition Groundhog Day live chat. I have absolutely nothing planned for it apart from the fact that it is Groundhog Day. And to all you folks who live in the colder parts of the country, we're looking at 6 more weeks of winter, and I am not thrilled by this, but hey, who asked me? Anywho, someone's here lurking in the channel, but oh my gosh, it's Tug. How are how we are again. So good to see you, Tug. So I'm sorry I couldn't make it to the live chat today. Just Mrs. Thrash was very under the weather, and I decided to be on nursemaid duties. Oh my God! Look who's here, JT, my brother. How you doing, man? Love you. How you doing? JT says hello, my good friend. JT, so glad you could make it. I haven't seen you in a while. Haven't talked to you in a while, as I'm sure you know. I normally see this man at the restaurant, among everywhere else. He is a Cape Cod institution. Things have been absolutely crazy. I got no excuse. I'll try to give you a call this week, okay? He and I have been talking about a collaboration for a year now. We will make it happen, JT. I promise you. What means here says hello, everyone. Let's us here. Says, hey, Thrash, Mrs. Thrash? Doing a lot better. She pretty much stayed in bed all day sleeping. Nasty, nasty headache. Mama Thrash has a headache too. I was just talking to her a little while ago. Sadly, it seems like all the women in the house are having headaches, but hopefully they'll be better tomorrow. But thank you so much for asking. Tux is very understandable, my friend. Thank you for your understanding. Gary says Groundhog Day to you. Happy Groundhog Day to you too, Gary. JT says this will be our year. Take care of the missus. Yes, JT, this will be our year, and way ahead, you're definitely going to take care of the missus. Same to you, by the way. Tell her I haven't seen her in a while. Last couple times I saw you at the restaurant, you were like picking up takeout or just saying hi to somebody. So yes, tell the missus I said hello, and hopefully see you again very, very, very soon. Zublik says, welcome, and a welcome to you as well, by the way. Zublik says, you kept her granny glasses. I see. They're the best ones I have in the house. Wajamin says, hope Mrs. Thrash and Mama Thrash feel better soon. I believe. I haven't talked to Mama Thrash. Last time I talked to her, she was just about to have her dinner. I didn't want to interrupt her. But anyway, she wasn't quite as bad. She was actually up and around. The missus couldn't even make it to work today. But hopefully they'll both have a full recovery very, very, very soon. And thank you for asking. Sean Innocence here says hello. Well, I'm so glad to see you, my brother. Zublik says you can. Oh, yeah, I already read that one. I see. I'm gonna. A lot of people saying hello to one another. Oh no, your missus was sick as well. Another headache. Is there a carbon monoxide leak I don't know about? I shouldn't even kid, brother. I shouldn't even kid. But please, please tell your missus I hope she feels better with all speed. Forbes Content is here and says Groundhog Day. Didn't we just do this? But I'm. And Sean says, "Oh, hello to a bunch of people." And Forms Consent says, "Oh no, speedy recovery. Thank you. I'll pass it on to both Mama Thrash and Mrs. Thrash and all the little Thrashettes." Danny's here says greetings from South Carolina and a greetings to you as well. Oh, Danny, please drop links to Wajameen, to JT Chronicles, and of course to Kevin at the Entertainment Headquarters. We just had an outstanding panel conversation of the giant behemoth. I had such a blast. If you guys haven't seen it, please check it out on my channel and or Kevin's. And Kevin, I'm so glad you could make it. Thank you. And Gary Carpenter says, where did you get your Godzilla figure? Mrs. Thrash got it for me. Ain't she wonderful? And I'm going to skip through the all the hellos because I'm already getting a little behind. But Johnny Ortiz here says, greetings, Thrash, and everyone. And oh, actually, I'm not behind. Wonders never cease. And Danny says, hey, they say that stupid rodent saw its shadow today. 6 more days of winter. I say we make stew out of the big rat. You can't kill Puxatawny Phil. It's not entirely his fault. And it's 6 more weeks of winter, I'm afraid. Weeks with a W, which means winter will probably be into June, I'm afraid. June. June. You're young and alive. Well, you're half there. I won't say which half. And Kevin says, I have too many Godzilla figures. LOL. There is no such thing as too many Godzilla figures. And I'm surprised. I really thought I was behind. I guess I'm not. And yeah, Doug also says no such thing. Remember, history shows again and again how nature points out the folly of men. Bow, bow, down, down, down. Yes, I'm a BOC fan too. So, but of course, you already knew that. Kevin says yes. The giant behemoth discussion was so good. Thank you, Thrash, for joining us. No, the pleasure was all mine. That was an absolutely outstanding cast of sci-fi buffs. Oh, and feel free. Sci-Fi Century is putting together a discussion of the Warriors. Guys, you know that I'm all about the Warriors. Feel free to pass my information on to my contact information because he mentioned that he'd like to have me on his channel. Please feel free to give it to him if he's putting together his panel because that'd be awesome. And Gary says, Geek is right. There is no such thing as too many things. And we put things on top of other things. Although there has been one chapter of our society which has not put one single thing on top of another thing. Full points today for anyone who can give me the explanation for that in the chat. I know one of you's got it. Indy, betting on you. Indy's hearing says when Gary asked about your Godzilla figure, he may not have been referring to your statue, Bob. Bazinga. Actually, it's so funny. There's been a lot of talk, maybe too much talk, about Godzilla. There's no such thing. My Flux sister Sarah posted an amazing Shogun Warriors toy commercial. I had that Godzilla. Mama Thrash bought it for me. Mama Thrash, as I'm sure you know, spent my early years knowing firsthand just how intense my love of Godzilla is. And was always supportive of same. Even my dad was for the most part. For the most part. For the most part. Gary says I really enjoyed the last night. Yeah, Gary, that was a blast. That was a blast. Oh, and Kevin, by the way, Gary had a special message. The professor gave Gary special kudos for knowing the biblical reference of the behemoth, and Gary said that meant a lot to him. Please pass that on to my new friend, the professor. And oh, Kevin says he'll send him my info. Thank you very much. And Denny says, no more about the giant behemoth than I ever wanted to. Yes, you know more, not you know, not no more. It's no more. Yes. Well, I do my research, as you know, Owen. Thank you for the links, as always. Danny, you are my link man. Wagwan links. Zublik says, I know it's from Monty Python. Superplex for the win. But do you know the next line or the actual reason they give? I'm sure someone will get it. Kevin says, I love the Warriors 2, a great film. Yeah, you did a retrospect on it too, if I remember correctly, but I was working, I couldn't make it. But I have a secret theory, a secret background theory about the Warriors that I'm very actually it's not a secret. I do a content post about it here. So please check that. Oh my gosh, look who's here. Tracy Bubala. How you doing? Says hi guys. Tracy's so glad you could make it, my dear. And Gary says, DS, I've jumped off the page. DS, I've seen it several times. And Zublik says, so you are into rubber and men T pawns. In some ways, I suppose. I can't argue with you there. And what mean says they say Puxatawny Phil is about 30% correct. That's about 20% more than me. And Indy says I went AFK for a moment. What was the reference I'm supposed to get? Oh, the Monty Python sketch about putting things on top of other things. There's one chapter which doesn't put a single thing on top of other things. What is the reason given for this detriment, this deficiency? And Kevin says, next up, Thrash, we have a date with King Kong and more. Oh, I know King Kong versus Godzilla, one of my favorite of the entire franchise. And Zuplex is getting gross. And Snarksass is here, says Boopy. Snarksass, so great to see you. I had such a blast hanging out with you the night, by the way. A lot of fun. We got to do it again very, 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 very soon. And a lot of people saying hello to Tracy. And Gary says, it's actually 6 more weeks of winter. Yeah, I know. Bummer. And he says, are you talking about Luther working for the cops, Bob? Exactly. And remember, I give 10. I give 10. Well, technically 9. One is redundant. I give 9.5 reasons why I think Luther was doing a Whitey Bulger. But I'll save that for Sci Fi Century. And Tug says, how many fills have there been? How many fills must a man walk down? And Anthony Jordan is here. Oh my god, Anthony. Someone else that well, I've known him through reputation, but officially met him for the first time at the Giant Behemoth Talk, and he is here. Says the original King Kong is the first movie I ever remember seeing. That is awesome. I saw it when I was a kid. It wasn't the first I ever saw, but it was an early one too. Of course, in repeats. I'm not that old. But Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. And oh, Danny, please give a link to Anthony Jordan's channel as well. Kevin says, Thrash, what do you think of the Wanderers? I actually, believe it or not, I think the Wanderers and the Warriors makes a great double feature. I've actually seen both. They're both gang related. One is far more light, but they're both about gangs. They both have great soundtracks. And you know what? I love the Wanderers. Not as much as the Warriors, but I do love the. I'm a wanderer. Yeah, I'm a wanderer. I wander around, 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 around. Great cast too, by the way. Great cast. Thank you for the link, Danny. Anthony says the original King Kong is the first. Oh, I think I read that already. And Dan's giving us another link. And Gary says, I'm looking forward to some more like last night. I am too. I will be attending on the 13th, I think you said. Kevin, please drop it in the comments below. I will be attending the entertainment headquarters discussion of King Kong versus Godzilla. I get some great goodies on that one. And I'll also be attending, he's also doing one on the green slime, which, as you guys have already picked out, doesn't go with the giant kaiju, but is a great movie in its own right. Massive cult classic. And there's a lot more crossovers than you would realize. So I'll be doing the green slime, which is, I believe, also later on this month. And JT says, hello, Lance. Greetings. Was that with Sly, the Wanderers? Um, Stallone wasn't in the Wanderers. You're probably the guy who played Meat in the Porky's franchise. He also plays a mercenary in Die Hard 2. I can't think of the guy's name to save my life. He's in the Wanderers. It's also Ken Wall is in the Wanderers. Oh, I haven't seen that movie in years. I'm trying to remember who else was in it. But yeah, Stallone was not in. Oh, and Len says JT, it was Ken Wall. Yeah, he's the star, but the really big dude was the guy who played Meat in the Porky's franchise. And Zublik says, I am sure that these weren't the first movies I saw, but the first movies I remember seeing were A Hole in the Head. That's the Frank Sinatra movie where he plays a single father trying to get rich, and The Three Faces of Eve. As a kid? Would have gone. And Gary says, I'm the wanderer, just a wander. Yes, indeed. And JT says, okay, thanks, Lance. Yes. Um, got that covered. Lynn says Tony Ganos. I believe Tony Ganos is the guy who played B, as we were discussing. And JT says, what is the gang movie with Sly and Henry Winkler? The Lords of Flatbush. The Lords of Flatbush, which I don't think I've seen. I think the last time I saw the movie, I think I was in high school. And if I remember correctly, Henry Winkler has a very, very small. I kept waiting for him to be like the star, because when I said Henry Winkler was the Fonz, right? But in Lords of Flatbush, he has a comparatively small part. But yeah, I believe that's the movie you're thinking of with Sly. And Zublixit says a Frank Sinatra, yes. And what do you mean said Lance beat me? Oh, and Lance says Lords of Flatbush. Lance, you're this far behind me tonight, by the way. Great job, great job. And Jay says, I like those films. Out the frames, T Palm. Yeah, these are my well, these are my crazy 70s glasses. I feel like Elton John when I wear them. But believe it or not, see, all I do is I wear cheaters, and for some reason, these are the ones I see best with. All the better to see with, my pretty. Mixed metaphors aside, Gary Carpenter says The Outsiders. The Outsiders is actually based on the. I'm going to be so embarrassed. I can't think of the lady's name. Hinton? Part of the Hinton series of books. That's actually set in the early 60s with the Socs and JT says yes, Lance. The Socs and the Greasers, and a very young Diane Lane is in it. Dun, 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 dun. Amazing all-star cast, but I'm gonna stop with Diane Lane. Tug says I only think of that actor as meat. Yeah, a lot of people do. Focus Content says, wasn't the Lords of Flatbush where Stallone and Richard Gere started their feud? That there's a bell ringing in my head, but it's probably the tinnitus. But I think you're right. And he says that should be Tony Ganios. Lancelot, he died last year. Oh, he did. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. And Kevin says he did. I didn't know he died. Where's Steve when you need him? And 13th for G versus KK, and the 15th. Oh, the 15th. Wow. Back to back for Green Slime. The reason I'm doing Green Slime is because Linda Miller is in it, who starred in King Kong Escapes. My interview her as soon. Yes, but there's actually some other crossovers as well, which I won't bring up until we do it, or I'll give you one. Actually, no, I'm going to save them all. I'm going to save them all for the chat. I want to give the game away. But yeah, that's a biggie. That's a biggie. And Anthony says it's crazy to think that the original Die Hard script was written for Sinatra. It would have been his daughter in the tower instead of his wife, and she would have died at the end. Yeah. And feud. Yeah, yeah. Forms contender. I got that. But yeah, that's crazy. He'd have been like way too old. Uh Zubik says they are from his wife Tracy, and Lance says, "Okay, indeed, he died." Wow, yeah, I didn't know that either. And Gary says, "Tell the professor that he's got a new friend as well." Oh, excellent. And JT says, "Diane Lane is one of my favorites." Yeah, Diane Lane is such a cutie. She's still amazing now. She's still amazing now. But dude, Streets of Fire. Oh, Streets of Fire, guys. She was a cutie in that one. Uh Oh, Tracy says, hi, Emily, if you're here. Actually, I just was going down. She is here. And Tug says, the urge to plug my own video after you quote The Wicked Witch. Please do. Please plug anything you like. It's a free forum here. Plug all your posts. And Emily says, "Hey Tracy, I'm lurking as usual." Emily, you can lurk all you want. You are our friend and are welcome in all capacities. And Gary says to Lance, "I bet you still haven't seen that movie I told you about the first time on this show, Sword of Lancelot." I don't think I have actually. Oh yeah, Emily is lurking, and he says, "I know Gary loves. I was made for dancing, so I'm going to mention Leaf Garrett was in The Outsiders. He was, and I always forget that he was. And I think I didn't know that at the time. I think I saw him do an interview where he mentioned. I go, "You were?" Yeah, he played one of the Socs, I believe. And Gary says, "Look what the cat dragged in." Oh, Anubis is here and says, "What is up, my man Thrash Pondo? Just popping in to say hello." Anubis, I'm so glad you did. It was so great working with you again. We can't let the gaps in our collaborations be as crazy as they are. Please don't be a stranger. But it was great seeing you today, and I'm sure I'll see you on one of the HQs very, very, very soon. And he says, "What is the topic tonight, Thrash?" When I said special edition, I must confess I have absolutely nothing. Like I said, I was able to put together trivia. It was requested by Gary, and it's on the Adams Family just because he just asked me to. Um, but I actually have no theme today. I was playing a nursemaid to Mrs. Thrash, so that's as they say. That Danny's given us a link. Thank you so much. And Tug says, "Hi, Emily. I said Wicked Witch, and you immediately appeared." And Gary Garber says, "Indy Leaf was also in Wonder Woman. I had forgotten that as well." And Lance says, "Where has Baked Bean and Alex from the UK?" Probably, as Kevin will attest to, it's very, very, very late for them. But to Alex and Baked Bean, if you're watching, hello, shout out from the States. And I just jumped again. So, there we are. And Kevin says, "Thrash, do you have a favorite 1950s or 60s natural disaster film?" Most of the disaster films I can think of actually come from the 70s. And natural disaster, I'd probably have to go with Earthquake. But if you want to talk, it was all part of the umbrella of disaster films. And probably my favorite disaster film from that time frame. And again, I mean, it's not natural. It's not natural, but the one that would probably fit the bill the best is the first airport movie. Sister Sarah here says, "Hi, everyone." Tug says, "Thanks, Danny. Why should I have to plug when others can do it for me?" And a lot of people saying hello to Sister Sarah. Gary says, "King Kong versus Godzilla was my first movie. I think I saw it when I was like 6 or 7, so it's certainly pretty close." And he says to Tug, "Usually when I have other folks plug my stuff, they charge extra." And Tracy says, "A bunch of gators, and gators gone wild here in Florida. The weather is bringing them out." You know my story. I have an uncle who lives in Inglewood, and he had a little canal in the back. And one night he asked us if we wanted to go out and see the alligators, and we're like, "We're good." Um, and he said, "Well, that's fine, but if you do go in the backyard, be careful." And we laughed and go, "There's a fence. There's a chain link fence in the backyard." He said, "Yeah, they can climb over that." Apparently, alligators with their claws can climb over small fences and have been known to actually get small dogs or even big dogs in Florida. As same. And it says, "We'll definitely be hooking up again, my friend. Looking forward to it." And Ziplik says, "Hope Mrs. Pons gets well soon." Yeah, Mrs. and again, Mama Thrash also had a bit of a headache, but seemed again when I talked to her when she was getting ready to have dinner, she seemed far more ambulatory. But that doesn't mean I'm not concerned. That doesn't mean again, if any headaches can really, really get you down. So I hope both of them feel better very, very, very soon. And Tug just jumped off the page, so I'm going to circle back. Oh, here we are. Tug says, "Got to switch to lurk mode while I tend to family matters, but I'm still listening." Tug, take care of yourself. So glad you were here, and I'll know that you're here still. And Kevin says, "It's wow, it's almost 1 o'clock his time. That is crazy. That is absolutely crazy." And Lynn says, "When has Dom and Lisa uh, plus Liz at?" You're right. I haven't seen Dominic D in ages, and I haven't seen Lisa either. I saw her on somebody else's chat not too long ago. She seems to be doing okay, and I saw Cindy D somewhere. I can't remember either, but they're not here tonight, so hopefully they will be here very, very, very soon. So shout outs to Lisa Fields and Cindy D as well. Oh, and of course, a Dominic D. And I'm gonna mispronounce the name. I just saw him today when I was at Tug's channel, but Sareen Sarnin Ciara Nee. Good to see you as well. And if you come by, please. Oh, and Tug says the Poseidon Adventure. All right, that does count as a natural disaster because it's a rogue wave. Um, so that is a natural. And my flex says, hit that thumbs up and share and comment, please. And thank you. Yes, what she said. And Mrs. Thrash says, I'm sorry, Trey says to feel better to Mrs. Thrash. And I'm assuming Mama Thrash as well. And Anthony says, Earthquake is a classic. Isn't it great? And Johnny Orchard says, Chuck Heston, natural disasters were the best. Remember Earthquake? Yeah, Earthquake is probably my favorite Earthquake of those natural disaster movies. Although, when I think Chuck Heston, my favorite disaster movie has got to be Soylent Green. Spoiler alert, it's people! It's people! Oh, and then, of course, there was a proposed sequel. It's still people! It's still people! And moving forward, Gary says, anything I haven't seen it in years. That and the Towering Inferno, of course. And Denny says, my first movie was probably Abbott and Costello movie. I'm old. Yeah, but reruns. And Gary says, message retracted. And Sarah says, hello to everybody she missed. And Indy just jumped off the page. I'm going to scoop. Here we are. Indy says to Kevin, my fair lady inspired me to learn accents from around the UK. That's why I was able to spot uh, Gordy a mile away. It's so fun, and I wanted to bring that up while we were doing our discussion. I just didn't want to go too far off topic with Monty Python. But one of my favorite Monty Python sketches is the one where Terry Jones wants to learn how to fly, and he goes to Graham Chapman, who's just hanging from the ceiling. And Terry Jones is like, I don't want to learn how to fly like this. I want to fly an aeroplane. A what? I want to fly an aeroplane. Ew. On aeroplane. No more buttered scones for me, mate. I'm off to fly the aeroplane. Perhaps I do join in the grand piano. And of course, the whole bit is about how they have two separate accents. And when I first saw it as a kid, I had trouble distinguishing them. They all sounded like English to me. Heaven forfend. So it was years before I actually got the joke that Terry Jones is supposed to have the posh accent and pardon me, your bleeding highness. So yes, that I was thinking that the other day. Thank you for pointing that out. And Kevin says, Thrash, I just watched a film called Crack in the World from 1965. I don't know if I've ever seen Crack in the World. For the life of me. I just thought of one though. The Day the Earth Caught Fire. The Day the Earth Caught Fire. I'm going to count that as a natural disaster movie. Zublik says, does Mama Thrash still drive? Yes, she does actually. In fact, we're going to be running a few errands tomorrow afternoon if she's feeling better. We're going to do some shopping. Been shopping? No, been shopping. And Anthony says, LOL, funny you should mention that one, Kevin, after watching the giant behemoth Plex recommended The Crack in the World to me. I'm definitely going to be watching it this week. Oh, good. And Kevin says, excellent indie spouts. And Gary says, I've never seen The Green Slime. You have to. It's just such a fun cult movie. You have to see it. You have to see it. And I just jumped again, so I'm gonna skip back for just a second. I think I'm almost caught up. Oh, Christopher's here. It says, "Good evening, Bob." Christopher, so good to see you, my brother. And Johnny Orton said, "What about Towering Inferno?" Towering Inferno's great. No, don't get me wrong. I love the Towering Inferno. Um, and Kevin says, "Yep, I am a proud Geordie." Is that someone from the north of England? I'm assuming. I am extrapolating. And Indy says, "Ah, you're kidding." And he says the name is pronounced what's his face. Works for me. I'm gonna call him that from now on, just so you know. And then my favorite natural disaster movie is probably Twister. Good one. The original, I'm sure you mean. And Gary says, I haven't seen Earthquake or The Towering Inferno in years. Emily says, most intense Heston disaster film was Ten Commandments. That's a good one too. Although Midway is an excellent film as well. Uh, if you haven't seen Midway, please do. It's a great one. It's probably one of my favorite war films. And Gary says, I did find it on YouTube, Towering Inferno. And Chris says, Good evening, Lance and Gary. Danny says, I didn't mow. There were reruns. I was devastated when I found out about and Costello had died for years. Yeah, Abbott died, I want to say, in like 1959. I actually remember when, I'm sorry, Costello died in 59. But I believe Bud Abbott died in like 1975. It was sometime early mid 70s. And Emily says, or whichever one he did, I don't watch those. I already know the plot and the ending. And Tracy says, "Bring out your dead." And Former Consent says, "Aeroplane, a woody sort of word. Yes, a nice round woody sounding word, not tinny, 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 tinny." And Former Consent. Oh, I already read that one. Lance is not feeling well, so he's saying goodbye. Lance, take care of yourself. I'm so glad you can make it. There seems to be a lot of that going around, but take care of yourself. So glad you were able to see us tonight. And Andre says he can't be crucified here. He's Jewish. And Emily says, "Have a good night and feel better soon, Lance." And yes, Lords of Flashbush, Gary, and a lot of people saying that they hope Lance feels better. And Kevin says, "The day the Earth caught fire, I am sure is the British film." It certainly is. It certainly is. Guy from First Men on the Moon is in it. One of my favorite cult horror films, Island of Terror, is in that too, and I can't think of his name to save my life right now. But yes, it's definitely an English film. Black and white. I want to say from 1959-60. Oh, and Leo McKern is also in it. And John says, "Sing it with me." My computer just betrayed me. Winston, are you out there? John says, "Sing it with me." The green slime. Green slime. Is it something in your head? Will you believe it when you're dead? Green slime. And Christopher says, "Good evening, to headquarters." And Johnny says, "What about the original movie for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea? This guy catches." Yeah, yeah, I guess you would, but of course, that's because they're doing above ground radiation tests, and the Valley number goes whack. So it's more brought on by technology. But no, yes, I'm going to count the original with Walter Pigeon and pretty much everyone else. But yes, I will count that as a natural disaster film. And Kevin just jumped off the page. Says Thrash should do a show where we talk about our favorite disaster films. We both pick five, so that gives us 10 to talk about. Great idea. Love it. In fact, tell you what, next week's trivia is going to be on natural disaster films. How's that? And Gary says, Hinton was The Outsiders. Thank you. It didn't sound right, but thank you for confirming that. And give me Grease anytime. Was there gangs in Grease? Well, yeah, I suppose they were kind of gang-ish. And Zubik says Abbott Costello. Abbott died in 74. I was close. I said 75. Then I took the over. And Emily says The Beach was a pretty damn good disaster film. The book was better, of course. Emily, we've had this conversation before, haven't we, right? I read, wait, are you talking about The Beach or On the Beach? The World War III film. I read the book, and the book is absolutely amazing. The book was the book blew me away when I was a kid, and I saw the movie, and it put me to sleep. It was so watered down, and no offense to anyone. Ava Gardner was so ridiculously miscast in that movie. She wasn't even I think she was just really big at the time, so they said there'd be a good vehicle for her, but she was so miscast in that role. I was like, when I found out it was her, I'm like, the only one who I really thought worked in that film was the Anthony Perkins character. I thought he was pretty damn good, but yeah, I feel the book is far superior to the movie. And Tom McCluskey's here and says, "Hi, I just came back from East Bay Comic Con. Tom, so glad you could make it. Welcome as always." Zublin says, "Greatest disaster movie according to T Pons is Howard the Duck." No, that film is a disaster. It's not a disaster movie. A lot of people saying hello to Tom. John says, "Alas, Babylon was a good book." There's a bell ringing in my head. And Indy says, Tug did that very thing about 8 months ago. About disaster films. Yes, there you go. And Tracy says, "Didn't Mo Howard die in 75?" Yes, he did. Around there, certainly. And Tab is here. Terrell Eugene Bellinger is here. Tab's here, and he says, "Happy Thrash, happy Sunday, fun day. Have you ever heard about this week's tragic plane crashes, DC and Philly?" I'm very glad you mentioned that. Um, those are two terrible tragedies. Um, a number of youth figure skaters from the Massachusetts area died in that crash. So it kind of hit us personally. Um, my hearts go out. Our hearts go out. My heart definitely, but I just want to say to anyone who was actually touched by this tragedy, commiserations. It was a heartbreaker. Thank you for mentioning that, Tim. And Tom says, "Met Michael. Oh, Michael Bain. Oh, that's excellent. Excellent." And I'm almost caught up, but I'm just gonna. Here we are. And Tug says, "Edward Judd, by the way, back to lurking. Thank you." And I knew what you meant. And hi to you, Teb. And Indy says to Tracy, "And more you're thinking about Francisco Franco. I heard he's still dead." Yes, he is. But doctors aren't sure how long he can maintain that condition. And Gary says, "Howard the Duck was a great bomb, and so was the Green Hornet." But it certainly was. It certainly was. And I'm going to skip down because it's after 8. We want to do the trivia, but Zublik says, "I was a disaster for those who went to see it." I'm assuming that it was a disaster. And he says, "I'm not sure if I should remind Bob it's about trivia or not." Yes, it is. And we're about to get to that. It's going to be through the comments real quick. Anthony says, "I wanted to like On the Beach, but it wasn't a very interesting movie." No, the book was great. I don't know how the movie failed. Probably because they spent so much time with Ava Gardner, who was poorly cast. As it says, "Wasn't The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio?" Yes, but I'm assuming she meant On the Beach because that's a disaster film. Well, nuclear disaster, but that counts. And Emily says, "Yep, super. I never saw that one." And Denny says, "Disaster movie like Titanic, sitting through it was a disaster for you." And Tom says, "The loss of life of figure skaters." Yeah. There were a number from our area, and it was very, very sad. From our area too, Tom, because you were from the Boston area initially. And Gary says there's at least four different Titanic movies, I think. Yeah, but he means the one with DiCaprio, I believe. And he says to Anthony, well, it's about people waiting for their impending doom that does not tend to limit our entertainment options. Well, yes, but the book is intense. The book manages to grab you, and you know what? I should do a compare and contrast, but I'd have to read the book again. I haven't read the book in 40 years, but trust me, Andy, the book is far more entertaining and interesting than the movie. Kevin says, "Night, guys. It's 104. Um, Take care, Kevin. Good to see you, and get some rest." Emily says, "Danny, the only part of that movie that was even sad was the scene with the Irish mom singing her children to sleep." And yes, indeed. Although when the rich dude like says, "No, no, don't bring us to a life raft. I will take a brandy." Where you know he's sacrificing himself. I thought that was pretty intense. And Tim says trivia time. It certainly is. Former Content says, I always wanted to like the day all the fish came out. Neat idea. Candice Bergen, but just so slow. An amazing cast. An amazing cast. Tom Courtney is in it. My mother had a crush on him apparently when she was younger. Amazing cast. It just all the pieces were there. It just didn't. mm. But yes, that's I do see where you're going. And Tom says Massachusetts a figure skater state, and when you skate. And Anthony says to Indy, I get that, and I appreciate that aspect, but none of the characters are really grab me. Yes, and again, they spent their whole time with Ava Gardner, who was the least interesting part of the entire movie. And Zuplex, yes, he's living in California. And Anthony says, I did find the Grand Prix scene on the beach and interesting. Where are all the ones that were crashing and dying were the real winners in a tragic and twisted sort of way. I can see that. And Christopher says, I went to see the Lizzie Borden house yesterday. Trip number 9. I've always wanted to go there. Always wanted to go there. And Tom says, yes, he did live in Massachusetts. And then he says, my favorite part about Bob reading my post is the random insertion of the occasional not in the text. Yeah, I do kind of like free form a little. And John says, does hitching to the galaxy count as a natural disaster? Well, the world blows up, so you know what? We'll count it. And someone says Cape Cod, Tom. No, I'm from Cape Cod. He was from Boston. And on that, which is pretty darn close for all you people who are not from Massachusetts. But if you're from Massachusetts, they're worlds away. And on that note, I'm going to start the trivia tonight, which, as I have said, is going to be on the original Adams Family TV show. So everybody get ready. Oh, Anthony says he's originally from Jersey. Not too far from me. Been in Jersey many times. I actually love it there. I know a lot of people like to make fun of Jersey. I have had nothing but good experiences there. But anyway, so here's the trivia, and as always, I shall read them in no particular order. Number 10. John Aston based his portrayal of Gomez Adams on A. Was it William Randolph Hearst? B. Vincent Price? C. H.P. Lovecraft? Or D. Groucho Marx? I shall repeat. John Aston based his portrayal of Gomez Adams on, was it A. William Randolph Hearst? B. Vincent Price? C. H.P. Lovecraft? Or D. Groucho Marx? And the answers are all over the place on this one. And so I'm gonna let them finish pouring in. Uh da, 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 da. Apparently this is a good one. Uh, oh, Anthony, you said you live in North Carolina? Oh, my dad lives in Raleigh. My sister lives on the coast. And let some more answers pop in before I decide to give the game away. Let's see, we got 10 people Watching two, four, six. Well, so far I've got 9 answers, and there's 10 people watch. So you know what? I'm going to call it. The correct answer was D. Groucho Marx. I thought the cigar would give it away, but apparently not. But yeah, yes, Groucho Marx. I know it's the least plausible, but you guys know me. Sometimes you have to go with the least plausible. Forbes consensus. I'm told that when people say they are from New Jersey, the response is, "Really? What exit?" Number nine. Number nine. Number nine. Number nine. Number nine. Morticia had a penchant for speaking to Gomez in this seductive language. Was it A, French, B, Spanish, C, Russian, or D, Yiddish? I shall repeat. Morticia had a penchant for speaking to Gomez in this seductive language. Was it A, French, B, Spanish, C, Russian, or D, Yiddish? Tree says Yiddish, LOL. Yeah, this one was almost a gimme. French. Although that's actually the funny part. Every time she says anything in non-English, he always interprets it Armenian. He goes, "Oh my dear, was that French?" And sometimes it actually was Yiddish. Moving forward, number 8. This iconic actress portrayed Grammy Hester Frump. Was it A, Yvonne DiCarlo, B, Margaret Hamilton, C, Mary Wicks, or D, Jane Withers? I shall repeat. This iconic actress played Grammy Hester Frump. Was it A, Yvonne DiCarlo, B, Margaret Hamilton, C, Mary Wicks, or D, Jane Withers? I love Emily. Oh crap! I don't know. Got some mixed responses on this one too. Indeed, I just realized you haven't given any responses. Are you playing in secret so as not to throw off the game? Now, for example, you said I love Mary Wicks. She was great, but do you not say whether or not that is the answer? I have a hundred. You're actually. Holy cow! Are we down to 3 viewers? No, no, we can't be. Not that many people have bailed on me because I'm doing trivia. But anyway, Indy, if that is what you're doing, inspired, but you don't have to. Unless you have a moral objection of letting people cheat off you. But anyway, the correct answer is B, Margaret Hamilton. My pretties. Speaking of the Wicked Witch of the West. Moving on, number 7. Jackie Coogan was at one time married to A, Sylvia Sidney, B, Imogene Coca, C, Betty Page, or D, Betty Grable? I shall repeat. I see. You didn't watch The Addams Family, and my computer's a bit wonky. Gotcha on both score. But number 7, Jackie Coogan was, and so either way, so you just sort of like hear in spirit, more than understand. You can't be an expert on everything, even you. Jackie Coogan was at one time married to A, Sylvia Sidney, B, Imogene Coca, C, Betty Page, or D, Betty Grable? Some gal on a lot of planes. Gary says, I found them on YouTube and the movies. Denny's cousin It. Well, you know what? This one's actually crazy The greatest pinup star of all time, Betty Grable. Yes, he was married to Betty Grable. Wasn't the father of the child she was carrying in that infamous pinup poster where she's kind of like looking over her shoulder? Yeah, she is pregnant in that, by the way. That's why she did the over the shoulder look. She was just starting to show, and it yet became the most provocative pinup of all time. But in any case, she was in fact at one time married for Jackie Coogan for like a couple of years. Moving on to number 6, and then we'll get scores. Not Rita Hayworth. No, not Rita Hayworth. Number 6. Wednesday's doll was named what? A. Dolly. B. Lucretia. C. Cleopatra. Or D. Marie Antoinette. Well, pooh, I love it. I shall repeat. Wednesday's doll was named what? Was it A. Dolly, B. Lucretia, C. Cleopatra, or D. Marie Antoinette? Well, hello, Dolly. Yes, hello, Dolly. And that's not a hint, by the way. Just give you guys a couple of seconds. I'm basically burning some screen time while you guys get your answers in. Tracy says, Mary, are you Mary, Queen of Scots? I am. I think she's dead. No, I'm not. Anyway, you see where that's going. The correct answer, and for you history buffs out there, oh, and Tom says just got home. Remember, Marie Antoinette was the person who lost their head, and her doll had no head. So the doll's name was Marie Antoinette, which was a in joke, which some of you got, but some of you did not. Now let's see some scores. Scores. Indy says Elizabeth Bathory would have been better choice, but nobody would have known who they were talking about. That's an amazing story. This is the woman who she was a noble from Hungary, southern Germany. Um, and what she would do is she wouldn't they got her for vampirism, but what she was actually doing was she would go she lived in this big manor, this castle type situation, but she would go to the townsfolk down below, hire the young girls as chambermaids, kill them, and then bathe in their blood. And when the towns found out about this, because none of the girls ever came home to visit, they when they found out what Bettini Atoll did, they bricked her up on the wall of her establishment. Crazy. So yes, one of us would have known you were talking about. Zublix is 5 out of 5. Tracy is 4 out of 5. Ted is 5 out of 5. John is 2.5 out of 5. I'm going to give it to you. Call it 3. Gary is 5 out of 5. Oh, hi, Mrs. Thrash. Mrs. Thrash is ambulatory. For the most part, they've all been asking about you and saying they hope you feel better. Tracy's 3 out of 5. Gary's 5 out of 5. I think I read that, but either way. Formless Content is 2, I think. Cindy says, hello, I'm driving. I'm late to a party. No worries, Cindy D. We were just talking about you. Glad you could make it. If you could listen in, we're doing the last half of Adam's Family Trivia. Tracy's, I always thought it was Mary, Queen of Scots, that doll. Oh, I see. No, Marie Antoinette, though. Let them eat cake and all that sort of rot. Christopher says, I only got one right. Hey, that one is better than none. A lot of people saying hi to Cindy. Indy, oh, it was hungry. I thought it was like Hungry Bob. Like, are you hungry? Oh no, I just had dinner not too long ago. It was hungry. Thank you. And 1500s or 1600s. It's either late 1500s or early 1600s, but I am familiar with the story to an extent. And Wajimine is 3 of 5. And a lot of people saying, hello to Mrs. Thrash, who's already left the building. And Tom says, I love Mary Wicks. Yeah, she was amazing. She was a natural treasure. Excellent. So we will now continue with part 2. Cindy, feel free to play from this point forward. And he says, right on both dates ranges. Oh, okay, cool. So I had the time frame. Good. Number five. Gomez said this about men with integrity. A, I buy and sell them. B, are the first to go. C, I wish I knew one. Or D, sold me my bridge. I'll come in again. Gomez said this about men of integrity. A, I buy and sell them. B, they're the first to go. C, I wish I knew one. Or D, sold me my bridge. Pharmacy said, man, those are all good. Yes, but only one is correct. You remember, I try to make the other choices seem at least plausible, or it's stupid. And Gary says, Tom, I've seen her in lots of movies and TV shows, from I Love Lucy to Sanford and Son, White Christmas to Sister Act. Yeah, very excellent, very good. And oh, you were thinking about Mary the other day, Tom. Uh, Emily says, I always thought he had integrity. Well, a lot of you did get this. So the answers were kind of all over the place, but a lot of you did get this. Um, I've always loved men of integrity. I wish I knew one. The correct answer was C. I wish I knew one. Number four. It is referred to in the credits as A, special guest star, it. B, itself, it. C, introducing it. Or D, is not referred to at all in the credits. I shall repeat. It is referred to in the credits as A, special guest star, B, itself, C, introducing, or D, not referred to at all. And Gary says, if you want to know how they died, there's a couple of videos on YouTube about them. I'm sure. Tom says, not Farah. Life is not Farah. Life is not Farah. Life is not Farah. He's leaving on the midnight train to Georgia. Anyone gets that reference, you get an extra gold star for the day. And Danny says, I'm lost like those people on that island. Oh, the Lost? Yes, indeed. Which is based on about 15 different things. In fact, there was actually a show in the early 70s about a group of college students who get stranded on an island, and it turned out that it was actually one that was actually being used for atomic testing, and they're living in fear that there's going to be another test. And it looks amazing. I've only seen trailers for it. And Indy says to Tom, I just rewatched How to Murder Your Wife last week. Mary was awesome in it as always. Carrie says Lost or Gilligan's Island. Or Lord of the Flies. That would have been my guess. Denny says, or Dr. Shrinker. That's another good one. That's another good one. There was another one. It was also in the 70s about oh, what was that called? It was another short-lived one. There were some kids in it though. Well, doesn't matter. But it's a common thread. And John says, I can't live without my man. I would rather live in I would rather live in his world without him than live without him in mine. Very good. Very good. Yes. Story goes, Lee Major's friend called up and Farrah answered the phone and he said, oh, can I talk to Lee? And she's like, no, he's on the midnight plane to Houston. And he goes, that's a great title for a song. And he sat down and he wrote it, but he decided Midnight Train to Georgia was catchier. But apparently, iconic song "Midnight Train to Georgia" was inspired by Farrah Fawcett answering the phone. Ellen Tracy also said "Lord of the Flies." Represent, and he says, "Are you thinking about the New People TV show, Bub?" Yeah, but like I said, I've never seen it. I saw a trailer for it, and I read some article about it. It didn't last long. In fact, wasn't it a made-for-TV movie that was supposed to be a pilot for a TV show. But in any way, the correct answer was itself. B. It was referred to as itself. Number three. Morticia has a cousin named what? A. Nightshade. B. Black Dahlia. C. Ophelia. Or D. Vampira. Oh, Danger Island's another good one. You see, there's a bunch of stories set on people getting stuck on an island. In fact, the Gulliver's Travels cartoon, he's trapped on an island too. Um, Again, Morticia has a cousin named what? A. Nightshade. B. Black Dahlia. C. Ophelia. Or D. Vampira. And Gary brings up a good point. Yes, Godzilla did have movies set on islands. And apparently everybody got this one because, yes, the correct answer is, of course, C. Ophelia. Shakespeare. Number two. The famous Flintstones homage to the Addams family were known as the what? A. The Gruesomes. B. The Ghoulies. C. The Freakies. Or D. The Jeffersons. I shall repeat. The famous Flintstones homage to the Addams family were known as the A. Gruesomes. B. Ghoulies. C. The Freakies. Or D. The Jeffersons. Danny says the Groovy Ghoulies. Though that's correct, but no, they were in fact different. Everyone else got it right, though it seems. Emily says, "Did you really just say the Jeffersons?" Yes. You see what I did there? The Adams and the Jeffersons, because they were political rivals among our founding fathers, and there was a show named The Jeffersons. But no, the Jeffersons is correct. But I put a lot of thought into that incorrect answer there. The correct answer was A, the Gruesomes. Not the Gruesomes. Yes, the Gruesomes. Forms Consent says, man, I ate a lot of the Freakies. I love that cereal, and I was shattered when they stopped it, and I couldn't figure out why those commercials never got their own cartoon show. Bummer. Number one, Lurch borrowed his legendary catchphrase, you rang, from this source. Was it A, Cato, the Green Hornet, B, Rochester, Jack Benny, C, Godfrey, my man Godfrey, or D, it was ad libbed? No previous butler had used that line. I shall repeat. Lurch borrowed his legendary catchphrase, you rang, from this source. Was it A, Cato, the Green Hornet, B, Rochester from the Jack Benny Show, C, Godfrey from my man Godfrey, or D, it was ad libbed? He wasn't borrowing from any previous depiction of a butler. You rang. Huh. Opinions divided in this case. Oh yeah, I love the Monsters movies too. By the way, they had a certain charm about them. Dun, 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 dun. I didn't go to see the Rob Zombie movie. Lady Fat Blood, Preston Downey, that fat samurai guy, his wife said it wasn't particularly good, so I didn't bother. Oh, you met Felix? That's really really cool. And he says, Maynard said it on Dobie Gillis. I'm pretty sure. Yes, but he wasn't the butler now, was he? um, yeah, actually, I knew. I think I knew what you were driving at. Felix the cat. No, no, I'm sorry. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. And let's just see. Johnny says Rob Zombie wrote the song Dragula about the monster's car called Dragula. I did know. That I did know. And Denny says the new Monster movie was a disappointment and a nightmare. We'll go with that. Just a with it and a nightmare. Oh, the correct answer was one more. Zublik says saw the Rob Zombie take on the monsters, and I thought it was possible. And Gary says Zelda is one in love with little Dobby Gillis. Yes, yes. And Emily says I love Dracula's song. Passable, not possible. I was wondering what you meant possible. It was obviously possible. They actually made it. It was a thing. By the way, the line was ad libbed. Initially, he was never supposed to say anything other than he was never supposed to actually articulate actual words. But when they hit that giant gong and he walked in, he just very deadpan. You rang. I guess the director actually fell out of his chair. So, oh yes, and like we'll get scores now. Zuberlex is 9 of 10. And Gary Carpenter says to Emily, I've seen the original Dracula car at Concord Raceway. Excellent. Tracy is 7 for 10. Christopher is 3 out of 10. And he says to Zuberlex, I endorse any song with Conquering Worm in it. I love the Conqueror Worm, the Vincent Price movie. Gary Carpenter's 10 out of 10. Emily's 8 out of 10. Watching me is 7 out of 10. And come on, guys, I know there's more scores out there. Or are there? But anyway, as long as we all had fun, that's the only thing that's really important. As long as we all had fun. I had fun. Did you have fun? Um, let's just see. Well, apparently we had fun up until I asked for scores. No worries. I think I'm going to call it a little early tonight. I'd like to go in and check on Mrs. Thrash, as I know she's ambulatory. Make sure she doesn't need anything. She has to work tomorrow. She took today off. She was supposed to work today. Actually, not today. Long story short. Anyway, um, uh, she does have to work tomorrow. So I just want to make sure she gets some sleep so she feels better for tomorrow. So, like I said, I'm going to wrap up soon. But Emily says, I don't know. I knew so much about the Adams family. And Zibble says, yes, it was delightful. And Danny says, good night, all. And Tom says, see. Um, see, a seer, a scene, age seer. And Tree says, this was great. Have a nice night, guys. Feel better. This is Pete. Indeed, indeed. I will pass that on to her. And Gary says, I had a blast tonight. I'm glad you guys did. And Indy says, get back to work, Nurse Ratchet. Thanks for the trivia, Bob. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And we are going to do disaster movie trivia next week. And anyway, guys, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to these all week. I really do. But be watching for others. I will be doing more with Kevin. Like I said, we got the on the 13th, we have King Kong versus Godzilla, and then on the 15th, Green Slime. I'll keep you posted on any other projects. I'd like to do some more content this week. Haven't quite ironed out what. I got a few things going on during the week, but I'm sure I'll have it by the end of the week. And anyway, definitely have another show. Of course, next week it's probably going to be Sarah, Dan, and I, but we'll have to see what the terms and conditions are. But anyway, until next week, guys, or until I see you again, be good, be safe, be careful. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all again very, 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 very soon. Peace.